GD agus Fulcherove hig agala bhfuil ella le BiteSize Irish. It's Mission Neil O'Sheil. Hello and welcome to another member interview with BiteSize Irish. I'm Neil. I'm the furbrower our Fulham le BiteSize. That's the learning content developer. Agus inish in new ta special agin ta Michael agin no Michal. So Michael, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Giadiv is Misha Mihal. Tame Imahoni in Jalgan is as Alaska May. Vime Imahoni on our fed Trika Blian is Muntur Bunskola Wagme go Heron Anura is Malom Ave Imahoni in Aaron.
Maihu, and could you give us that in English as well? Could you translate for us?
I'll try. Hi everyone. My name is Michael and I live in Dundalk. I'm from Alaska and I lived in Alaska for 30 years. I'm a primary school teacher and I moved to Ireland a year ago and I really enjoy living in Ireland.
Fantastic. And this is a really interesting angle. We often have lots of members who have done the opposite journey, people who've grown up in Ireland or their family did, but they moved away. So you've got a different trip. You've moved to Ireland and you're teaching in a primary school. So this is all very intriguing. But first, I want to ask you about your own background. Do you have connections to Ireland yourself? You said you're from Alaska. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I'm actually from Idaho, and my father is from the eastern United States in West Virginia, and my last name is McGee, M-C-G-E-E, and we're not sure. He thinks maybe someone on his side of the family came over from Ireland, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. Well, McGee is a very well-known Irish name, of course. There's lots of McGees around the country. Did you have that identity then as an Irish-American family, or was it more of a distant link, do you think?
I think it was more of a distant link. Yep, we didn't have that, and there was no Irish really heritage, no of any kind of heritage really in my family, just very generic American, I think.
Okay, so not just the second generation, something a lot deeper, I suppose.
Probably, yep.
Great. But you have that lovely Irish name, of course. And your family, or you in your own journey, you seem to have crossed the whole of North America from Virginia all the way over to Alaska. So how did you end up in Alaska?
Yeah, well, I think in America, it's pretty typical to move around a lot and maybe move farther away from your family than a lot of people in Ireland do. And so it's what my parents did. They moved across the country to the west, more of the West Coast. And then when I finished university, I was looking for an adventure and I moved farther north up to Alaska. And I started working with sled dogs.
Wow.
Spent a lot of time in the remote communities in the wilderness in Alaska.
Wow.
And then I had a child. And my wife and I needed to be in a place that wasn't so remote. So we moved to Anchorage, which is the biggest city, but still right next to mountains and wilderness. And I became a primary school teacher then. So,
well, it sounds beautiful. I've never been to North America, but Alaska, of course, is such a strong image. And myself, I remember those Jack London books we read at school.
Yeah,
a long time ago now from me, but they're so evocative about the nature and the landscape there. Very harsh landscape at times, but beautiful.
It can be, especially in the winter time. It's not forgiving. It's very cold.
Yeah, that's great. So you're from Idaho originally. You moved up to Alaska. It's funny what you say about how possibly Americans move a bit more. Well, basically over here, we can't move so far and stay in the same country. It's so tiny compared to the United States.
Yeah.
We do travel internationally a lot, of course. So, immigration is almost part of Irish identity in itself. I myself had a few years in London. Everybody does a bit of that. but Americans like to go travel within the country too. That's very nice. So you're from maybe distantly Irish connections in the blood, in the family, but not the strongest connection. So how is it then that you've ended up moving the other direction again, and you've ended up coming to live in Ireland?
Well, I got married. So I met my current wife and we got married, and it just seemed easier for me to move to Ireland than for her to try to move to Alaska.
And she's Irish, is she?
Yep, she's Irish
Yeah.
from Dundalk. Yep.
From Dundalk. Okay, fantastic. So, was that when you first became interested in the Irish language, or when did the language come into your life?
Well, I actually I was really interested in Irish traditional folk music for a long time, and I taught myself to play the tin whistle and the wooden flute a little bit, and I had some tune books. And going through some of the tune books was some of them that I got were in Irish, and so
Oh,
I
yeah.
would sort of try to translate some of the titles, and so that was actually my first introduction to any kind of Irish language or the words and the language. And
Lovely.
then,
Yeah, I was just at a wedding at the weekend with an old friend, and it was in County Mayo, and there was some lovely traditional music being played, and I thought, oh, I know this tune. That's She Bheag She Wore. I know this tune. It's Tordur de Lao, and some of
yeah,
those famous old tunes, beautiful little old tunes.
yeah,
Um, they do have Irish titles, so I suppose
right,
that's kind of enigmatic if you don't know it.
yeah. She beg and she
Mhm.
more, right?
Yeah, beautiful tune, isn't it? I love that one.
Yeah, it is. I
Yeah.
like O'Carolyn. Yep.
Yeah. So I know that one of my favorite Irish groups ever is Planksty. For anybody who's looking for a recommendation, I would just send everybody go listen to Planksty. And they
Right.
started in the 1970s, I think, and they just did some of the best versions for me of the old folk music and traditional music.
Yeah.
So the music, yeah, you're not the only one. A lot of people get interested because of the music. So that's
Yeah. So that was my interest, but I never thought I didn't pursue it any farther than that. Just a word
sure.
here and there related to the music. But then when I moved here, I probably still wouldn't have tried to learn Irish, I reckon. Just I love languages and I love words and grammar, and maybe that's the teacher in me. And I love that all the signs have the Irish words. So I would be trying to
Yes.
figure all that stuff out anyway, and doing little
Mm.
translations in my head. But yeah, part of being a teacher in Ireland, in order to keep your teaching certificate when you're from a different country, they would like you to learn at least a certain amount of Irish. So that's my journey that I'm on right now.
Yes, and again, you're not the only one. Again, for people who don't know, Irish is taught in primary schools in the Republic of Ireland. So any primary school teacher should really have some Irish, so they can use that in classrooms and so on. And I've met quite a few people like that before, actually. Like I said, I lived in London for years, so I taught quite a few people who were just moving to Ireland for work or for life, whatever took them there. And they thought, well, I also need to brush up on my Irish, either returning to Irish or just learning it for the first time.
Right.
There's a few people who've been through that process for sure. But you say you're kind of interested in languages anyway. Is that right?
Yeah, I enjoy it. I took
Yeah.
French in college and really enjoyed that. And I've just always
Mm,
been interested in languages and yeah, reading, writing, and all that kind
right.
of stuff. Yep.
Mm. I do understand you though. I'm a language lover too. I mean, this is my life and my work. But I do understand that we wouldn't necessarily go and learn the Irish language because it's a big job to learn any language. Luckily for us and for you, you kind of have to because of your work.
Right. Yeah.
So so it's nice. It's nice to get a little push sometimes, isn't it? I
It
feel,
is. I'm
you know.
enjoying it, and it's keeping me to where I do a little bit every day. Try to do a little bit every day, and
Gaeilge gachla.
yeah.
Very good.
And I was at in Donegal in Bunbeg at the Gaeltacht this summer for a week.
Very
That was a
good.
great experience. I would highly recommend that to anyone who can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent a bit of time in the Donegal Gaeltacht myself this year, and it's just a lovely atmosphere. Very beautiful place, of course, but also a great way to practice. And a lot of us will do a class, a couple of hours a week or a little bit of study every day, but it's really hard to beat that immersion,
Yeah, and
doing
the
doing so much
enthusiasm.
every day.
Yeah,
Mm.
a lot of excitement for the language and the history, and, I went to Gola Island, which is mentioned in, Baden-Elemi.
Yep, Jimmy
Yeah,
Gogola. He went to
yeah.
Gola. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool, and, yeah, there's lots of songs from that area that, we learned, or we didn't learn them, but we studied some of the words. It was really neat to be right there and then listen to the songs from
Yeah,
that.
the musical heritage is really strong in all the Gaeltacht areas. So again, a lot of the old songs, the old sean-nós songs or traditional songs in Irish, they'll all have references to specific places. So
Mhm.
Bajin Elemi, it's a very famous song about a little boat. It's mentioning all the islands and everywhere it goes. And there are other songs like Ban Fajin, which is a Connemara song. Again, thanks to do that one. And that mentions a lot of places down around Connemara and so on. So it's great to connect that more less concrete culture with the actual places, I
Yep.
think. Um, Great. And how are you finding life in Dundalk? So I know that you were saying you've seen the Irish language signs around there. Has it been an interesting place to move to? Is it very different for you? How are you feeling there?
Well, I'd say it's more different than I thought it would be. I came from one English-speaking country to another, and I thought, how different can it be? I knew there would be some differences, and there's a lot of cultural differences. One
Mm,
thing I really enjoy is that, the pace of life seems to be a little slower. People aren't quite as uptight and in a hurry and stressed out, and I enjoy that. Dundalk's
mm.
quite a bit smaller than Anchorage, Alaska, which is the largest city in Alaska, so that's nice. I can cycle everywhere or walk just about anywhere I
Yeah.
wanna get to, which I love that.
It's a great location in Ireland too, because with the train, it's close to Dublin and Belfast, and there's lots of beautiful nature around there too.
There is, yeah, I've been swimming in the sea. Carlingford is great, the Cooley Mountains, the Mourne Mountains. I really
Mm.
like mountain biking and hill walking, so I've got all that just kinda right at my doorstep, which is great.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, Cooley and Carlingford are just beautiful as well. And
yeah,
another example of tying the culture into the landscape is I'm a big fan of the mythology myself, the old stories, and I studied Old Irish at university. But Dundalgan was where Cuchulainn was from, the great hero, and then there were these epics about the cattle raid of Cooley and so on.
right.
That's in that landscape, South Armagh and County Louth. So
Yeah,
I always feel that, these ancient warriors and heroes are just around the corner when I'm in that part of Ireland.
yeah, one of the athletic groups the athletic group I'm with is called Setanta, which was
Yes.
Cuchulainn's name at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
Mm.
yeah, the we were just hiking in Carlingford where they scooped a big chunk out of the mountain during the cattle raid or some battle or something, so,
Oh yeah, they explain every oddity in the landscape with some
yeah,
reference to the folklore and mythology. I love that. It's fantastic.
yeah.
Um, okay, great. So you have moved a lot in your life, and now you're over here in Ireland, and you've started learning Irish to help with your career as a primary teacher. Um, so how how have you been getting on with bite-size Irish? Could you tell us what you've enjoyed the most about learning Irish with bite-size, particularly?
Yeah, well, I think what my first introduction to it would have been the videos online. I would be looking something up or trying to figure something out, and those videos would pop up. That's what sort of got me into it, and then, I really like everything about it. I like the variety of different kind of entry points. So depending on what I'm
Mm.
interested in doing or what I feel like that morning, I can jump into different places and look at different things, grammar, or continue a conversational type lesson, or learn some more about Shevu or whatever. So I
Yeah.
like that.
I always think that that variety of approaches is very important because you know if you stick with one kind of task that you enjoy, you could just get quite um, sort of isolated in that area, maybe siloed in that space, and you're not practicing other skills. So I always think it's a good thing to do a variety of things. We need to practice listening and reading at times. But you know, sometimes we need to study the grammar, or maybe just today you're going to focus on pronunciation skills or other communication skills. So a variety is a great thing to have when learning a language for sure.
Yep. And then what I
Mhm.
really, really like is the pobl, the community.
Mm.
I haven't been able to make that as much a part of my practice yet as I want it to be, but I love the when we come on with Ben and do the scripts, and I get to hear what it should sound like and just talk to other people who are doing Irish as well and learning it and are at all different areas. And to even writing out, a couple times now I've been able to find the prompt of the week and have time to type something out. And Emma's been great about typing up some corrections for me, and it just helps me a little
Lovely.
bit,
Kahali.
helps me do a little bit of Irish every day. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I mean, a lot of our online courses are designed as self-study, and you know that's valuable. But it's great not to be alone when doing these things too. You know, so I know the community on Pubble, they're very supportive, and if people start a chat or ask a question, lots of people are answering and replying. So it's great to have that feeling of community, and that's what Pubble means, of course. So that's great that that's working out. Um, what are your goals then with Irish? I know that you need it for your work reasons, but what are you looking at now? What kind of a level are you trying to achieve? Would you say?
Yeah. Well, I think even more than what I have to accomplish with my work is I'd like to just keep going then in past that, and just become better, be more able to speak in Irish. I think it's really amazing that there's so much effort put into trying to keep this language alive, and I think it's really cool that it is so spoken in areas of the country. So I guess visiting those areas, every once in a while, and
Hmm.
practicing my conversational skills.
And have you discovered pop-up Gaeltacht in Dundalk or any other events or groups in Dundalk that are using
I've been
Irish?
to a conversation circle in the
Great,
library,
great.
and it was actually one person there I had met at the Gale Talked, so it's nice to see a
Mm,
friendly face when you walk into a room, and yeah, so that's going to be a part of my weekly routine as well. So
fantastic. That's a great
yeah,
thing to do. Yeah.
yeah,
There used to be a dialect. There used to be a Gaeltacht quite close to you there, but it's uh, I don't know when the last speakers would have died, but in the 20th century there were still native speakers of Irish in County Louth and South Armagh, around the mountains there.
all
So
right,
I think sometimes that they talk about Oriel Irish from that area.
hmm,
So it did have a Gaeltacht not too long ago,
right,
compared to a lot of other ex-Gaeltacht places. So yeah, very strong identity around there too, with traditional culture and music. There's always a lot of music from Dundalk too. I think maybe the Merry Wallopers are from that region too.
all
They're
right.
kind of one of these modern trend of folk groups who were doing something a bit different with the music.
Hmm.
Um, that is great. So, what would you say to anybody else, Michael, who's interested in visiting Irish or visiting Ireland, or maybe coming to live here and trying to study the language? Would you have any advice for people?
Well, I think, yeah, you don't have to do it alone. So there are
Hmm.
communities like this one at BiteSize Irish where you can speak with other people and chat back and forth in Irish with other people. So that's really helpful to me.
Hmm. You talk about the local Kirkle Corridor group. A lot of libraries have these conversation circles and things like that. So there are public open events like that happening. And of course, the Gaeltacht courses and the likes of Bite Size Irish too.
Right.
That
And
is
there's lots of,
fantastic.
yeah, good courses online. I've taken a few online courses too. So
Hmm. Hmm.
there's a lot out there to help you learn it. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot more happening, particularly in the last few years. There's a real buzz about the language, a lot more happening, a lot of energy these days. So it's in a good place, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Avicho, Bisha Anchester Fad Kainchlat. So nice to chat to you and meet you. To Sulagam Community Sultagus Tarava as our bite size in Mahanshaw. I hope you continue to enjoy and benefit from the bite sized materials and services like Pubble and the Bio sessions. And I'm sure we'll be chatting again. And I am only down the road in Dublin. So if you're ever visiting, you have to give us a call.
Yep. Sounds good. Go Rab
Okay.
Maggot.
So we're going to leave it at that, folks. Don't forget that you can find out more about Bite Size Irish by clicking on this link or by signing up to the newsletter. And we will be back next month again with another Agalib Will. Slan live.
Slán.
Check out BiteSize Irish courses and resources at bitesize.irish.